Thank you guys for having me here today. It's quite an honor to be on this panel, and it's a beautiful day. I wanted to give a little bit more background about myself. My very first job when I was growing up was my dad taught me how to raise vegetables, and I sold them door to door in my neighborhood. I think that once you do that, you have a real appreciation of the symbiotic relationship between us and the earth and the environment. Currently, I live in downtown Orlando, and I'm part of the Urban Chicken Pilot Program, and I raise my chickens organically. And I trade out the eggs for my dry cleaning. I try to keep it a kind of a local thing. So I think that when we say GMOs, or when we say one aspect of an environmental or an agriculture issue, it's never just one topic. Everything is all intertwined, and it's really hard to do one good thing if you're not doing broad good things in the whole economy, especially in agriculture. If you guys have been reading about the drought in California, is everybody familiar with how bad it's gotten? It's really concerning, and people say the drought in California, but it's really not just about California. When you think of Florida, our climate is going to be more similar to California in the winter than it is in Michigan, let's say. So when some of the crops that they've stopped growing in California because they're too water intensive, they're already starting to pick up steam here. And that can be a real big concern in several different ways. One, some of these crops weren't really grown so often here, and they could be using GMO seeds and raised so that cross-pollination on a crop that has never really been commercially viable here may happen. Also, when you have, it's not just food safety, it's also food security. When you are taxing the environment and the agriculture lands that we have left because you're not being able to produce it somewhere else, now you're adding not only the GMO possible seeds, cross-pollination, but you're also using a lot more water. You're also using a ton more pesticides and a lot more fertilizer. So when that is added to our already strained resources that we have here, what's that going to look like in 5 years or 10 years? The potential is huge. We're already dealing with, when you think of the Everglades and how that we're trying to restore the Everglades. If it becomes more viable, instead of taking that land back and using it the way it was 100 years ago, now it's more viable to plant more crops. I think that that's going to be a great concern for us in Florida. We have 20 million people that live here, and we last year had 97.3 million visitors. That's a lot of people. And that's a lot of people to keep up with clean drinking water and just the population growth that we're experiencing right now. If you've done any research on the different balance between agriculture and the population growth, a lot of the land that our houses may be on, it was agricultural land. It was citrus. When it might be feasible to turn that land that would be slated for housing, and now it's a competition between agriculture and housing. So there's a whole other dynamic with that concern. I'd also like to, and I'm sitting on the Soil and Water Conservation Board. I think that we really try to educate the public on using best practices, just not in agriculture, but also at your house. Species that are going to be used using less water. So when we have species that they're going to be growing here that are a lot more water intensive, what do we do about that? Do we put a limit on what we can grow and how we grow it? that's going to be an issue to come up for sure. Also, another thing with the algae blooms that they've had because of runoff from the agricultural land with the fertilizer and the pesticides. In 2013, did anybody read about the Caloosahatchee and the bays? They released all that farmland, all that water, and we had an amazing rainy season that year. The Lake Okeechobee was to its brim, and they released billions and billions of gallons of water, and from all the agriculture, all that ran off into the rivers, and it killed on both sides of the state massive die-off of fishes. Complete ecosystem failure of river grasses. Killed 114 manatees. That's pretty devastating. And now this is all from agriculture and runoff, either from massive farms. There's also the component of the beef, the cattle lands. So when you have all that and it's impacting the water, and now you can't expect that to get any better unless you change those practices. So I think that is one of the biggest things for food security and for our livelihood and our quality of life here.